Hi everyone, it's Marisa from bumblebeeapothecary.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make the Italian casserole recipe that is in Dr. Natasha's GAPS books. So this recipe is in both the blue book and the yellow book, and it is such a nice recipe because you can adapt it so many different ways. I'm going to make one version of it for you today. So this recipe is, like she says in her books, it's one of the ways that you can make an entire meal for the whole family and meat stock at the same time. That is a wonderful way to make meat stock when you make a whole meal, and that way you can enjoy all the flavors together and all the different parts of it that enhance digestion, and it maximizes your time in the kitchen when you're making everything at once. It's one of my favorite things to do to really cut down on busy work and to get the most nourishing and most delicious food made in the smallest amount of time with the least amount of work. So let's jump into the recipe. So I'm going to start off with my meat here. So in the book she says that you can use any of the following for meat. You can do a leg or shoulder of lamb, a joint of pork, beef or venison, 2 pheasants, 2 to 4 pigeons, 2 quails, a whole chicken, or turkey legs. And she says you need a large casserole dish with a lid. I love this Dutch oven, this cast iron Dutch oven with a lid. My meat that I'm going to be doing today is a shoulder roast of lamb, and it's got all the beautiful bones in it. So that's going to be my meat. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this into my cast iron Dutch oven. So whatever of those meats that you're choosing, she lists those different ones because they all have joints and bones and connective tissue. And that's what you want for that really delicious meat stock. And the meat closer to the bone is easier to digest and more nutritious. Also, right now I have my oven preheated to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. She gives you a range for temperatures. She says 280 to 320 degrees Fahrenheit or 140 to 160 degrees Celsius. And then the cooking time is going to be 5 to 6 hours, and I'm going to plan on 6 hours for this. So the next thing to do is she says to add water to fill 2/3 of the dish. Using my nice filtered water there, and then she gives ideas for a bunch of different seasonings to add. So of course we're going to do salt and pepper. So our nice mineral salt, I like either Baja Gold or Celtic sea salt. So we're just going to add that to taste. You want enough to where that meat stock that you're making at the same time is going to have a good flavor. So you want to make sure you have enough in there for that. I'm just going to do a light sprinkling of ground pepper. And then the herbs that she suggests are, she says any dried herbs that you want to taste. She also lists some dried chilies, some bay leaves, and then dried rosemary. So I'm going to go ahead and add all those. And she says a sprig of rosemary. I just have this rosemary that's already like cut and sifted, so I'm going to just add a good amount of that. And then she says she recommends adding a handful of homemade fermented vegetables. So I'm gonna do sauerkraut, and I'll just use a fork and then take out what looks like about a handful, and then add that. And then a really interesting thing that I am trying to incorporate more into my cooking in general, and especially for GAPS, is to go ahead and let this sit and ferment on the countertop. So fermenting anything breaks it down and makes it more easily digestible, also makes the nutrients more available to our body. So fermenting meat is a wonderful thing to do. She says if you have time, leave the casserole at room temperature for a few hours to ferment a little before putting it in the oven. So you just put your lid on after we've added all that, and then just let it sit for a few hours. And then if you're able to let it ferment for a few hours or whatever time up to a few hours that you were able to do, then it's time for it to go into the oven, and we're just going to let it go in there around 300 degrees Fahrenheit I just have mine right at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the total cook time is going to be 5 to 6 hours. And then an hour before we're ready to eat, we're going to add the vegetables. So I'm just going to stick that in the oven. And then we'll come back an hour before we're going to serve it and add the vegetables. Okay, it is about an hour before we want to eat. She says in the book like 40 minutes, so I just kind of rounded it to an hour. Somewhere around there is good. I'm going to go ahead and add the vegetables now. So I'm going to take this out of the oven. Looking very nice. So she has a variety of different vegetables in the book here that she suggests. They are rosettes of broccoli and cauliflower, whole peeled small red or white onions, Brussels sprouts, pieces of turnip, and large pieces of carrot. So of those, the only two that I have on hand right now are broccoli and onions. So I'm going to add those. I think I'm going to do the onions first. And these are onions that we just pulled right out of our garden, so I'm going to wash them real quick. And then I'm just going to cut off the ends, peel them, and put them in whole. Those little onions. And then I just have organic frozen broccoli here. And I guess if I'm using something frozen, it is good to do it more like an hour before eating so that it has time to defrost before it cooks a bit. And I wasn't sure originally how much would fit in there, and I pulled out 2 bags. I think I'm just gonna do 1 bag. And then we just put the lid back on this and return it to the oven for another hour. And then that's it for now. So we're just gonna let it continue cooking for another hour, like I said, and then when that time's up, we're gonna pull it out and serve it up. Okay, so our cooking time is done, so we're gonna go ahead and pull this out of the oven and serve it up. That looks really good. It smells really good too. One of the things that I love about this recipe is just all the different variations you can make on it. I plan to do a bunch more videos making as many variations as I can on this same recipe to try to help give ideas for variety that you can have while making one of Dr. Natasha's recipes. So be watching for that if easy, delicious, nutrient-dense recipes that fit with gaps are something that you're interested in. Meanwhile, let's get some of this served up. All right, so she says in her book you can have some of the meat and vegetables on a plate and then also have some of the meat stock in a mug alongside. And then she says definitely save the rest of the meat stock too, and then use that for heating up whenever you need meat stock to make a soup or to drink alongside another meal. This looks really good. It's really tender. Pull out some of those onions. Okay. Very, very nice. And then we always like to strain the mugs of meat stock, which is actually what Dr. Natasha says in her book too. She says, run it through a sieve and then serve it in mugs alongside the meal. All right, and there we go. The last thing that you'd want to add is some more fermented food. We would probably choose some fermented carrots or a little bit of sauerkraut or some of our vegetable medley to have alongside of this. And that is a delicious meal right there. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing how to make Dr. Natasha's Italian casserole recipe from her GAPS books. like I said, stay tuned for when I make more variations of that same casserole recipe based on all of her different ideas for different cuts of meats and different vegetables that you can add. Be sure and check out that description box for links to where I like to buy different grocery, pantry staple items, meats, favorite things for our house and kitchen. I also have free ebooks and lots of other goodies. I have a GAPS meal plan. I also have a program where I guide clients through the GAPS diet. It's a great way to get lots of support and guidance when you're going through GAPS. So check out that description box for all those resources. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Share it with anybody else who you think would like to see it or find it helpful or interesting. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out 2 new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.